It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, talking about what's going on in sports on a Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. It was kind of a mixed bag, I guess you could say, for Utah State athletics over the weekend. We'll update you on what took place, what you may have missed, but also go deeper into some of the topics that you're fully aware of. Utah State football, they know where they're headed, to a bowl game. And how excited are you for that? So we'll hear from the coach, Bronco Mendenhall, as Utah State got the news, and get his reactions to the destination, the opponent, and the date. But we'll also look at men's basketball, women's basketball, coming up and down weekend for both, and see what the latest various metrics look like out there for Utah State. And what's going on throughout college football? Is the bowl season dead? We just don't know it yet. There's certainly strong signs that it's on life support right now. So a lot of different things to get through here on the show. And, of course, we always love to hear from you. 435-339-0321. That is the Young Power Sports of Logan text line if you want to weigh in. And love to get your reactions to the bowl announcement on Sunday. After all the games were done, the College Football Playoff Committee selects who's going to be in and who's not in the playoff. So that then affects a lot of the other bowls. And so we find out on Sunday afternoon during the course of the broadcast or the basketball game is when I first heard it. But Utah State heading to Boise in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl to face Washington State. And Jason, I got to tell you, when the first thought was, I wasn't surprised to hear they were going to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It didn't surprise me because they were the 7th team from the Mountain West to go bowling, and they were the lowest of the 7 teams to go. And so it didn't surprise me. Regionally, it makes sense. I know there's some Aggie fans are like, oh, we've done this, we've gone and been there, done that. But it's easy for fans to get to. And then the icing on the cake for me was Washington State. This is a future Pac-12 opponent. It's really not that far for them to get there. We're about, like, Logan and Pullman, like Boise is about equidistant for both of them. Not quite totally, but it's pretty close. It's within driving distance of both campuses. So it could prove to be a pretty interesting fan experience to be there.
Yeah, I think it will end up being a great experience for both teams, for both fan bases. I mean, yeah, it's a pair of 6-6 teams, and there's also the fact that it is Boise. It is not an exotic location. It's going to be cold. Both teams have to stare at that ugly field for the game. But this, I think there's going to be a lot of fun about this bowl. It's a fairly equal matchup, and I think there's interesting things about the matchup with how these teams are going to stack up against each other. There's also the thing you pointed out where there's Elizabeth Cantwell, where she's involved kind of on both sides of this, having been president of both of these universities and still obviously president at Washington State. So, yeah, it's about as good of a way you can draw up a bowl game. And I guess the kind of the one thing that maybe isn't good for this bowl, and it's where I wondered if the Aggies would end up in this bowl, is that it is a bit of a retread, in that this will be the 6th time Utah State has played in this bowl game. Technically, one of those times was named the Humanitarian Bowl, but it's been the same bowl.
Destination is the same, yeah.
City, all that. Since 1997, they've played. This will be their 6th time. Of course, the Aggies are 1-4 in the Potato Bowl / Humanitarian Bowl, so they've got some demons to exercise here. where they need to finally get another win, where their only win was the 1997 Humanitarian Bowl. Right? No, that was Toledo. They beat Toledo in the Potato Bowl.
Yeah.
Because they lost to Cincinnati.
Gary won one there.
Yeah, that's right. It was Gary. They won in 2012. For some reason, I thought it was 97, but it was actually like the Vegas Bowl like a couple years later, or maybe a couple years earlier. It was their first ever bowl win. So yeah, they've got one win. Yeah, it was the 2012. It was Chucky Keaton. They blew out Toledo, where, of course, I think Kerwin Williams was the MVP. He had like 200-something yards of total offense, I think.
Yeah, that's right. He was everywhere.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game for him. And then there's the fact that, yeah, sure, it's a future Pac-12 opponent, but like this is a team that you're going to see a lot of. You saw him last year. You're going to see him this year. You're going to see him every year from now until a while, as the Aggies will be facing every single one of their conference opponents for a while, with given the size of the conference. So that's kind of the one thing where it's like, hey, this is an opponent that we're going to see a lot of. Can we maybe play somebody else? But again, people talk about regionality and all these different things with college football. This is a bowl game at, I think, its finest in the sense of planning. Like, I mean, it's not the peak of college football. This isn't the playoff or the Rose Bowl or whatnot. But this is a lot of what college football is about. You have two teams, they get to the end of their season, you go play an exhibition game as kind of a celebration of what the season has been, even if it hasn't been perfect, as both these teams are 500, but they're both relatively close. I mean, for Americans, a 5-hour drive is, that's something that we're all willing to do. For Aggie fans in Logan, it's going to be a 4.5-hour drive. For Washington State fans, it'll be about 5.5-hour drive, I think. So close enough for both of them. And heck, there's probably a decent number of Washington State fans in kind of the northern end of Idaho, so they'll be a little, maybe even closer.
Yeah, so just pull it up. It's a 5.5-hour drive from Pullman.
Yeah, I did the math on Sunday, so.
But, as you talk generally about the Palouse, as they like to call it, that general area.
Is that what that thing is?
It's only an hour flight. I mean, if someone wants to get on a short regional airline, but there's generally that's not bad. You could get there easily the night before, get a hotel room, or for those crazies, just get up in the morning, make the drive, go there to watch the football game. And if you're really crazy, you drive home that same night.
I mean, that's what I did last time they were in the Potato Bowl.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, I think that's what I did, or maybe I went there the day before.
I think we got you a hotel.
I think you're right
for the night before.
That's probably what. So I definitely went to a press conference. I did drive home the day of, but like, the game ends at like 4, so it's just a late night.
Oh, the kickoff is at
noon.
Is at noon? Yeah,
it might have been later the last time they did it, but it's at noon. So like that is a game ends at 4. I'm out of there at 6. Again, it's a midnight arrival in Logan, but it is a nice midnight arrival because you get to drive in from the west, and it is surprisingly beautiful coming in from that area at night, which I don't get to do very often.
Yeah. So it's 5.5 hours from Pullman. It's about 5.5, 5:45, depending on how fast you drive from Logan.
If you'd have read my article on Cache Valley Daily, Eric, you would have seen this already.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's about equidistant between the two. So look, I understand there's a bunch of Aggie fans who are kind of dumping on the announcement Sunday, but this, if you knew Utah State was going bowling, you had to know Boise State, that field and that bowl was going to be the destination. And the fact that it's Washington State who's the opponent, I'd much rather have that than some random school out of the MAC that no one's going to know, no one's going to have any history with. And it's like, well, okay, that makes that boring. That doesn't make it interesting at all. But the fact that it's Washington State, it's a future conference opponent. Here's an early preview of us versus them, so to speak, and the whole Betsy Cantwell stuff. I think that this makes a really intriguing football game for me.
Yeah. I'll play devil's advocate because I have already laid my claim that I think this is a good, especially from the Bulls' perspective. And again, I also have made the argument that this is kind of regional football at its best. And I stand by that. But to play a bit of devil's advocate to kind of give a voice to the other side, there is some value in something nice in playing somebody you've never played before. Go play Kent State. You're not going to play them again for a while. Go play Georgia State, Memphis. These are teams that you look at Utah State's history of playing them. Maybe they played them once in like the 70s or 80s or 90s, one time like 3 decades ago. Playing some of these teams that you'll never play otherwise, because theoretically you should have scheduled a lot of these regional teams. They're either in your conference or you play them in non-conference. So while I think it is a good thing that you have a regional bowl game where you have 2 teams that are close by, and as you've stated, they're relatively equidistant to the bowl venue, there is sometimes a value, even if it is a little annoying for Aggie fans. It's sometimes nice for fans, especially those who are just going to watch it on TV anyway, weren't planning on traveling. Like, hey, your team plays some random team from the East Coast, because heaven knows if you're ever going to see them again. So I know that can sometimes be fun. You like to see the exotic.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously, if you are a fan that was planning on traveling, like if you're one who just watches the Aggies on TV and that's your fan experience, and I'm not degrading that because that's usually my fan experience, but like if that's the kind of fan that you are and that's the way you experience the Aggies, you kind of want to see them go to exotic locations, cities across the country, go face teams across the country. And so I think that viewpoint is valid, even if I've already stated that I think that this is a good thing for other reasons.
Yeah, but the fact that they barely qualified for a bowl, I mean, no one should be surprised that this is what Utah State gets.
Is anyone complaining that like the caliber of opponent? I guess the most thing is just that there's almost too much familiarity with the Potato Bowl, and while not too much familiarity with Washington State yet, there will be. But I think for the Potato Bowl organizers, I don't think they could have ended up with a better matchup as far as their bottom line, as far as their ability to drum up interest for this game, given the storylines and given that they're putting 2 6-6 teams together. I don't think you can come up with a better way to pair a couple of 6-6 teams together than what the Potato Bowl has pulled off.
Agreed. And Bronco Mendenhall had high praise for their organizers and how they put this bowl together.
I think the bowl game organizers and those in charge put together a really wise matchup, an intriguing matchup, and one that has a chance for, I think, strong support from both institutions.
And then just another kind of comment pairing with that, a little bit more detail about how this is a nice regional matchup between these 2 schools in this bowl game.
The regional flavor of the game, I think, is really good for not only Utah State, but also Washington State. I like the matchup. I think there's lots of intrigue. I think 2 really good football teams that are motivated. And I like the timing of the game. I always like college football, especially prior to Christmas, so the kids can play, have a great experience, and then be home with their families. I love how close it is to Logan, and for, our fans to be able to get to the game without a giant disruption of their calendar. I like the extra chances for our team to prepare and practice and for our program to keep developing. But more importantly, I'm just really thankful to be able to be with this particular team more. I love this team.
Isn't that an interesting comment at the end there? And how that stands in contrast to some other things going on in college football and teams opting not to participate in bowls.
Yeah, we'll
maybe get into that a little bit more.
We're going to get into that. That is a topic and a half.
But your reactions, we've been asking for these. Utah State facing Washington State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It'll be on December 22nd. It's, I don't know why I was saying 5 hours. I was looking at a different map. It's like 4-hour drive.
Yeah, it's like 4.5 hours or like 4:15, I think, from Logan. And then, 5.5, give or take. It depends on how fast you drive and how many policemen are in the way.
Or road construction. You never know. A couple texts coming in on our Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 4474. Boise is a very fun city. If the game was on Saturday, I'd definitely be there. Game is on a Monday, so I definitely will not be up there. Not worth taking a day off work.
Yeah, and that's kind of the awkward thing where it seems like they're tied to a date. Where the Potato Bowl has typically been, I think, the last few years on like the 22nd or 23rd. And I guess maybe it's been on the, I don't know. Yeah, it's on a Monday. And it's just like,
Because it's been on Saturdays before.
Yeah, I think last time it was on a weekend or something like that. I should look that up. But yeah, it's having it on a Monday, like that might be the worst day of the week to have it.
Yeah, middle of the day on a Monday, viewership's not going to be strong. It's hard for some people to get off work or kids out of school, but it's still, travel is relatively easy to get there. A lot easier than getting on a plane and flying a couple hours to somewhere in Texas.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll amend that and saying maybe Tuesday or Wednesday would have been worse, because I guess what they're maybe banking on is people taking a weekend and then
making
the
a
day
long
off
weekend.
And just take the day off on Monday. So I guess in that sense,
it's possible.
I'll amend my comment there.
But to 4474 point, like the times that I've been there for these bowl games, that organizing group there for that bowl, they do a nice job. Like there have been some fun activities that they do. There's some nice places around Boise. There's surprising a good number of restaurants. So things to do around the city. Like, yeah, I'm not going to go and spend a full week for bowl prep. That's just too much. I'm going to be out of the area anyway.
Yeah, you're going to be out of town, so
but
you're just sending me up there.
So, but there are like to make the trip up there. Like if you decided to go up on a Sunday, spend the night, Sunday night somewhere up there, and then do some of the things that they'll have going on Monday before the game, and then of course the festivities that take place and the kickoff. I think it's worth it to go up there. I know Utah State, they like it because it's a lot cheaper to get there. Put the team on a bus. They can do some good alumni activities there. It's a lot easier for them. But 8968 has a different opinion. It might be the spud dud, and I don't especially like Boise State's stadium, nor am I in love with the town. With all that, it may be a bowl game I can go to, especially if my kids take me, like they have 3 of them.
Yeah, it's nice. And I mean, I was, I spent some time whining about potentially having to travel for work, which the horror, having to travel to Texas. But
yeah,
mostly it was the timing. But I like it. It's nice going to Boise. I think it'll be 3 straight years that I'll have watched a game in that stadium. As much as I like to rag on the field, it's a fine city. I've got nothing against it. So we'll see what it holds in store. Hopefully there's a win, because I've not watched the Aggies win on that field yet. Heck, they might have only won on that field like twice ever.
Yeah, wins on that turf are hard to come by for Utah State.
Against the Boise's or against somebody else? Against the Boise's.
Against the Boise's. I like that. That's what we should call them now, the Boise's. 1534 texting in, barbacoa in Boise is the best steak, period. Thanks for the recommendation, 1534.
Yeah, might have to check it out. We got to see what I'm going to do as far as travel. Am I just going to drive up there on Monday, or are they going to send me on Sunday?
I don't know. We got to figure that out, because once I leave, there's nothing. You get no help from me.
That means I'm just going to rack up all the bills. I'm going to put myself in the fanciest hotels in Boise, the Marriott on Main Street, the fanciest hotel, eat like, $40 steak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bummed. I'm leaving just days before.
You're bummed? Aren't you going to like Europe?
Well, yes, that will be cool, but
that will be cool. Eric really wanted to go to Boise, but no, he's going to Europe.
I mean, Boise or Berlin. Choices. But to be a part of the bowl lead up and everything leading up to it, I'm sad I'm going to be missing some of that.
Yeah, you'll miss it by a few days, but yeah, again, it should be a good matchup. We'll get to Bronco's thoughts on the matchup. He hadn't done any of his bowl prep, like film, and he's probably mostly only sort of aware of Washington State, because I don't think there was really any crossover between this year's Washington State team and any of like Utah State's opponents.
I don't think so.
So I don't know if he would have even had a chance to watch them on film just to... Oh, that's my alarm going off. Hi there. That's not supposed to go off.
It's telling you it's time for a timeout. Yeah, you're on the full court press.
Well, it's reminding me of the press conference that happened yesterday. So good job, phone.
So we'll take a timeout. Still love to get your reactions to the Utah State Washington State matchup in Boise at the Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. 435-339-0321.
Across our valley, families and friends are gathering, sharing meals, stories, and long-held traditions this holiday season. I'm Lance Zollinger, president at Cache Valley Bank. For generations, you've trusted us to be part of your financial journey, and we're honored to be your hometown bank. This season, we wish you joy, safety, and meaningful moments with the people you love. You deserve it. Happy holidays from Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Looking for comfort and convenience in Logan? Stay at the Bomb Motel for just $79 when you mention Aggie 79. Just minutes from USU. Perfect for football games, commencements, campus events, and more. Enjoy your stay without the hassle. Your sure stay Bomb Motel offers cozy beds, free continental breakfasts, and a seasonal outdoor pool. True comfort and value. $79 rooms with Aggie 79. The Bomb Motel. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220 today.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm.
With down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm. No overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the full court press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Washington State taking on Utah State in the Famous Idaho Potato Bowl on December 22nd. Kickoff at 12, broadcast on ESPN. Also, we'll have full play-by-play and expanded KVNU game day coverage on KVNU that morning. Then full Aggie call afterwards to take your calls and your reactions. But Washington State finished 6-6 on the season, wins over two Mountain West teams. San Diego State, a good San Diego State team, beat them 36-13, and they also beat Colorado State 20-3. But no real crossover when you look at that Washington State and Utah State schedules. There were no common opponents. But this is a team that played Ole Miss within a field goal, played Virginia within 2 points. So Ole Miss finishes very high. Virginia ranks in the top 25. But this is also a team that lost to Oregon State, and Oregon State struggled this year. Lost to one of the two games that they played them. But they've played a tough schedule. They played North Texas, proved to be a pretty solid program. So this is it was an interesting schedule for Washington State. A little hard to predict exactly who they are or what their team looks like. But we didn't have a lot of detail and a lot of time to prep for who this team is, or certainly Bronco didn't either. But Jason, you had an interesting question about Washington State as a team that limits scoring or doesn't score very much. A little bit of both.
Yeah, they average 22 points scored per game, which is like 112th. So it's 21.6 if you want to be specific. 112th in the country in points per game. They average 20.2 points allowed per game, which is 27th in the country. So they have a lot of these low-scoring games, and that seems to be their style of play. Then, yeah, so I asked Bronco Mendenhall, and he made sure to clarify, like, hey, I haven't looked into it, but based on his impression, he gave his analysis of that situation.
That's somewhere between Fresno and New Mexico of the teams we played this year in terms of style of play. Neither one of those is perfect or accurate or all the way aligned, but somewhere in there, leaning more toward Fresno would be what that might look like. However, the matchups can also allow more explosive plays and a different scoring potential. Again, against San Diego State. I believe it was 32 or 36 points they scored. And I believe their last game against Oregon State, again, I'm not well versed or studied yet, but the point potential can change with a matchup or two or a big play or two. But there's a specific style of play that their head coach that just left had a lot of success with through the FCS level, and immediately, I would say, from a completely different style they were playing offensively, did a really nice job of instituting that and making it work.
Yeah, so this is a team that, again, they have that style. And I like what Bronco Mendenhall he was talking about, how, like, sure, they can be a low-scoring team, but maybe there are specific aspects of the matchup that can allow for greater scoring, because there are some teams that were able to put up points, although they were some of the best offenses in the country. For instance, North Texas scored 59 against Washington State, and then Washington in the Apple Cup, or is it the Apple Cup or Apple Bowl? What do they call it? The Apple something.
I think it's the Apple Cup.
Okay, that's what I thought. But Washington, again, they also put up 49 against Washington State.
59, actually.
Yeah, 59, excuse me. What did I say, 49?
49, yeah.
So they both put up 59 points exactly. North Texas is the number one scoring offense in the country, though, and Washington is 23rd. So those are two very good offenses, and the Aggies have actually kind of struggled on offense. At one point, they were like top 30, but they've been averaging fewer points of late. So are they going to be the same level of explosive as the two teams that have put up 59, whereas none of the rest of Washington State's opponents, including three other teams that are either in the playoff or contending for the playoff? You mentioned Ole Miss in the playoff. Virginia was in the ACC title game. If they win, they were in the playoff. And then James Madison, who made the playoff. Ole Miss scored 24. Virginia scored 22. James Madison scored 24. And those are all in that, third or fourth highest number of points, where 59 is the highest, and then a few teams have scored in the 20s, and they're all like playoff caliber teams. So like that's the kind of level of defense that we're looking at with Washington State. They have held the majority of their opponents to the teens, low 20s, with two outliers against two of the best offenses in the country.
Yeah, and again, as we continue to clarify, Bronco didn't have a lot of information about Washington State's team or their history, at least for this season, but he does have experience with Washington State, so he offered a quick scout of the Cougars.
Number one, I think they're a good football team, and when you look at the schedule of the teams they played, and if you look at the Mountain West matchups, they beat San Diego State. I wouldn't say fairly handily, but convincingly in Pullman, and then beat Colorado State. So those two within our league. We also competed against 7 bowl teams. And so I think, and there's some pretty dynamic schedules by both teams. We played them a year ago at New Mexico when they were a top 25 team. So I was familiar with some of their talent then. I have not even started the film yet, so I don't know how much of the talent was retained, how much different the whole team is.
Yeah, so there's still questions there. And they've had a coaching change too. Like their head coach left. Yeah, he's going to fill another position.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Rogers, I think. Yeah, Jimmy Rogers, who coached them for 1 year. He stepped in, coached for 1 year, and now he's going to Iowa State, if I'm not mistaken. And their defensive coordinator, whose name suddenly escapes me, he's taking over as interim head coach for the time being. So this is going to be an interesting game for them. Although, I don't know, did we have this clip about, because Bronco Mendenhall essentially was talking about the potential impact of losing a head coach, and he also had some experience with that.
Yeah, what it's like coaching against interim coaches or being one.
But there's a sense of uncertainty for everyone, and it's a challenge. Sometimes it's a cleaner break if the head coach is gone. Sometimes, though, his assistants are allowed to remain to give that team its best chance for continuity until through the game, and then they can go, whichever ones he's choosing. Other times, some of the assistants go also, and so it could be kind of a skeleton type of staff. Rarely have I seen that affect the team in a manner that's noticeable. Sometimes they play almost in defiance of the departures, and sometimes are more motivated.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Sometimes Utah State has experienced this when their head coach left, before a bowl game. Their interim led the team to a great bowl win. It was Utah State. It was Frank Miley down in New Mexico. Aggies looked great. I think they beat North Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they absolutely blew out North Texas. Of course, that was one of the Jordan Love years. But yeah, they played a really good game. I know North Texas likes to pretend that bowl. There were some injuries, so I don't want to completely discount it. But Utah State was very prepared for that bowl game and played in defiance, despite the fact they only had I think you were able to count the number of Utah State coaches on staff at that point on one hand.
Oh yeah, it was a skeleton crew. Like Bronco just mentioned, that was Utah State's experience in that bowl game, where I feel for those coaches who have a lot on their plates to try to not only prepare for a bowl game, but there's also recruiting that's still going on, and
they're also trying to figure out what their future is going to be, because most interim staffs they have to uproot and go somewhere because they're going to go get hired somewhere else. If they're lucky that they have the easy step of just being interim and then go joining their former joining the head coach as in the new destination. That's kind of the easy step, but sometimes you might only take half or such the staff. Bronco Mendenhall is kind of the exception, where he brought his entire staff, save for a couple guys that got hired at bigger programs.
Yeah.
So it's a lot that they have to do, but as Bronco said, like in his own kind of casual observance, like doesn't really seem to have a significant negative impact on these teams.
No, because sometimes teams will say, they'll rally for the interim guy or one of the coordinator who gets to lead the team. Say, hey, this guy deserves a chance to be a head coach, and let's give him a good showing to help him with his resume. Give him a shot. If it's not here, but for somewhere else. So sometimes those teams will rally behind those guys, and the team will play just a little bit extra motivated. They may not have the skill of the head coach there, but they, if for one game, it's not like things drastically change as to the philosophy and how they communicate with each other. But it's a moment to rally together after losing one of your top people.
Yeah, it's not going to change the style because, it's the staff under the old head coach. They've been with these players and running the same system all year. They've done 12 games of what they've been doing, and they'll have heard every play call, been in every situation. Are they going to have necessarily the long experience of what to do in exactly what situation? Maybe not, but they're all smart guys. They're all coaches. They're maybe even part of the play calling, and they'll be communicating with the play caller and all that kind of stuff and being part of those conversations. Are they the guy with the final decision? No, but they're part of those decisions on a weekly, moment by moment basis. And so at that point, it's just learning simple things like turning your mic pack on. There's jokingly one coach who had to learn that really quickly, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an advantage for Utah State that they're going up against a team that will be lacking their head coach.
One of the other wrinkles in this matchup is the fact that Utah State's former president is the current president at Washington State. Betsy Cantwell, Elizabeth Cantwell, left under odd circumstances, to say the least. It was a surprise that she left. And that she became the head person in charge at Washington State. But the circumstances of her departure, as more and more information got peeled back, it became uglier and uglier about what she was doing while here at Utah State. And what was uncovered, things that she was doing here, was not pretty, controversial for sure. But she appears to have landed in Pullman, and everybody's very excited about having her there and rallying around her as their president. So I asked Bronco Mendenhall, their tenure together at Utah State wouldn't have been for very long.
I think I calculated it at about 117 days.
Yeah, so I just asked him, look, there's a connection between these two schools with her, and you crossed paths a little bit. What was your relationship like with her as university president here in Logan?
It was very short, and the relationship didn't have much depth or maturity to it because it wasn't long enough. My experiences with President Cantwell, she was very transparent and open regarding the circumstances in which I was walking into here at Utah State. I felt like that I was told what the challenges were and some of the unique situations that I would be walking into. I think she expressed her care and support for the student athletes with her passion to have a great athletic program, and saw the value that could add not only to the institution but the community. And so a few brief conversations regarding family, and when Holly and I were introduced at the press conference. But other than the interview, the press conference, and one or two other experiences, university presidents are busy, and so are brand new head coaches. So really not much more than that in terms of, depth of relationship.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, they were not on campus together for very long. He arrives and is named as the head coach in December, and she leaves in
April. Well, April was her last official. April 1st was her last official day, although her departure was announced.
Yeah, it was announced in end of February or early
I think
March.
somewhere around there. I was looking it up the other day, but
she wasn't on campus very much after that.
No.
Yeah, so really only a few months together on campus.
Maybe like a month, depending on how much she was on campus for that February to April. Because he arrived December 6th or 7th. She announced her departure, and 2 months later, and it's that is barely any time.
Yeah, so that's true. Because he would have been on the road recruiting and trying to put a team together and a coaching staff together.
Yeah, so their tenures overlapped by, like I said, about 100 or so days. But their actual overlap in Logan, probably 2 weeks.
Yeah. Very, very limited. Quick text on our Young Power Sports Logan text line, 6543. Question: what's up with teams getting fined for not wanting to go to a bowl? Don't teams have freedom anymore?
Well, we'll go ahead and go to a break in a second here, and we'll kind of answer this. We'll get into this topic a little bit more. I'll say this. Teams don't have freedom because they're in a conference, and they agree to be part of conference tie-in bowl games. So if you decline to go to a bowl game, you are not fulfilling your obligations to the conference that you said you were going to do, and that looks bad on the conference, who agree with these bowl organizers. We will send one of our teams to your bowl game if we have one. And when
it's
those
part
teams,
of their revenue stream.
Yeah, and when those teams say no, the conferences get big mad because they've signed a bunch of things on the dotted line, and so that's why the fines are coming from the conference. You'll notice Notre Dame has not been hit with a fine. Why? Because they're not in a conference.
Yeah, there's nobody to fine them. No one to slap their hand.
But yeah, let's take a quick break, and we'll get into this topic of bowl games, teams opting out. I think 10 different teams with an opportunity to go bowling at least have declined to go to a bowl, though 7 of those were 5 and 7. It's a bit complicated, but we'll get into that next here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Les Olson IT's structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low-voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Happy holidays from the entire team at Adams Wealth Advisors. As we celebrate the joy of this season, it's also time to plan for a financially sound future. Wondering about tax strategies or required investment distributions? Adams Wealth Advisors has the answers. The Adams Wealth team is here to guide you through any complexities and ensure a prosperous new year. Happy holidays from Adams Wealth Advisors, where achieving your financial goals is their mission. Call today to schedule an appointment, 752-1702, or search Adams Wealth Advisors online.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Winter is here. Young Power Sports Logan is ready for it. Right now, you can get blowout pricing on all 2025 Ski-Doo and Polaris snowmobiles up to $6,000 off. And don't forget, Young Power Sports offers free pickup and drop-off for service, plus free preseason checks on all snowmobiles. Just off South Main in Logan, Young Power Sports Logan, where your winter adventure begins. They sponsor our text line, 435-339-0321. Had a question going into the break about teams getting fined for not going to bowl games. Jason, maybe they're playing your hot new game, basketball bowl game or bust.
Bogus.
And or bogus.
Bowl basketball or bogus.
Maybe it should be bust because they're not doing it. Like this, and I think you explained it very well there going into the break. These conferences, they have official tie-ins. They have official contracts with these bowls. And I get it. It's somewhat loose because if a conference can't fill its allotment, then these bowls have secondary or even third options of different conferences to turn to fill these vacancies, bowl vacancies.
Yeah, that's a built-in contingency of the team's not bowl eligible or they're going to the playoffs. So and the bowls understand that.
Right, but it's the conferences. Like the bowl system is part of their revenue stream. And so if a school is available to participate and they opt not to, that affects the conference's revenue stream and other members in the conference because oftentimes there's some element of a shared pool of those revenue resources. So that's why those fines are being issued. And so it makes sense to me that there's some level of punishment. Clearly it's not harsh enough because more schools are opting out of bowls. And this is only going to get worse, I think. Yeah. And unless something dramatically changes, we're going to see more and more schools opt not to participate. And they'll come up with their various reasons. Like Baylor, their excuse this week was, well, we're already deep into preparation for next year. Like, your students are still on campus. Like they're not that far away. It's not like you've suddenly sent everybody home and you have to recall everybody. That's just ridiculous talk and coming up with an excuse to create cover for the real reason that you're just done with the season. You know you're going to have a bunch of players transfer, and you just don't like your team. Like if Dave Aranda loved his team and they loved him, they'd be fighting for another game, more opportunities to be together to play more games.
Yeah, Bronco Mendenhall twice in his career has, been leaving a school, having been announced that he was leaving a school. For instance, he left BYU, I think, at the end of 2015. If I might have the year wrong, but essentially 2015, it's announced he's going to Virginia. Had already been announced as the next head coach of Virginia. And he was coaching in BYU's bowl game against, in the Las Vegas Bowl, I think against University of Utah, funnily enough. And what actually, if I remember, was a pretty exciting game. And then 2021 at Virginia, he announced that he's stepping down. That was when he took his hiatus, as we learned it would become. He still coached the bowl game for Virginia, although he also experienced, there's two cases where he said, I'm leaving, but I want one last ride with these guys in a bowl game. But he also, and I actually wasn't aware of this until he mentioned in the press conference, but he was part of a 2020 Virginia team that was bowl eligible that said no to a bowl game. Although that was a whole different kettle of fish.
2020, that's just you have to throw that year out.
Yeah. So in that sense, Bronco Mendenhall has, and again, as he explained, do we have that clip?
We do.
Let's go ahead and play that then.
Certainly Notre Dame, they have their own motive based on the selection. And the others, one due to injury, it sounds like, and the other with a coaching change, and also possibly injury. So it's a different era. I think if you consider maybe one of the most drastic changes or times this happened was Florida State a couple of years ago, where they had a strong season and the number of players they had that opted out to protect themselves for the NFL or the combine or possible transfer or whatever it might have been. And I'm not sure they truly recovered since then. I can't say for sure there's a direct correlation, but the landscape is significantly different. So I don't think any of these three institutions, it was necessarily players not wanting to play necessarily, but I think maybe based on principle or circumstance, they felt warranted to end their seasons.
And that is a shortened version of his long answer. But he did talk about, Jason pretty much summed up some of the other aspect of what he was detailing about other times where he left but decided to still stick around. Where he put it, teams had asked him to leave. That's the way he put it. But he
I wonder
opted
if that's been part of the narrative, because I don't really remember super firmly about his departure from BYU. Of course, I was on an LDS mission at the time. So I was in Arkansas by the time he left, but I remember it being kind of just really weird how he ended up leaving BYU.
Yeah, I don't remember him that it was on a super hot seat and they were like, you either quit or we're going to fire you, or we'll fire you. You find another job or you're going to get fired. I don't remember quite that narrative, but again, I wasn't really following them that closely either. But I knew at Virginia it was kind of up and down there, but it was still a surprise. It appeared to be a big surprise with his announcement at Virginia that he was just going to step away from football. So kind of interesting how he would phrase it in that way. But in looking at those in light of both situations, he made it clear like he wanted to stick around to coach the team out of loyalty. Illustrating here, there could be various reasons for teams opting not to participate and not knowing the full details of what's going on behind the scenes with those schools who have opted not to. But it just speaks to the bigger problems going on in college football right now.
Yeah, the fact that this isn't the first time teams have ever maybe had some minor issues, injury or otherwise. But this is, teams would make it to bowl games. Of course, in the very early days, Utah State actually turned down an invitation to the Sun Bowl, like back in like the 30s or something like that, because they had two players participating in like an all-star game. So like this kind of stuff has happened before, but not to this scale. It had happened to Utah State once ever. They declined a bowl game, and it was forever ago, back when bowl games were barely a thing.
Right.
But they'd managed to, one way or another, make it to every single bowl game, whether they had a head coach or not. They had several bowl games where they didn't have a head coach. But they managed to get to bowl games. And again, things happen. Like Boise State went like 2 or 3 years without playing in a bowl game because like COVID, then like there was like a hurricane or something like that during one of them. So it got canceled. So like it was really weird for Boise where they made a bowl game 3 years or something like that. Didn't play in any of them. So like that kind of stuff happens, but not to this degree. And like it was Brett McMurphy who's been reporting on this, but like I think there were at least 2 or 3, I think, straight up bowl eligible teams. The only ones I can think of off the top of my head were Kansas State, who was 6-6, and Notre Dame, who's been the most public one who's declined their bowl game, and they're kind of going on a big old wine fest. They need to be sent some cheese, quite frankly, to go with all that. We might get to that in a minute here. Their AD. But then Brett McMurphy reporting that, and this was as of yesterday at about 5 o'clock.
Oh, Kansas State and Iowa State.
Iowa State. Okay, that's right. And Iowa State was 8-4. They're without head coach. That's where Jimmy Rogers is going. So yeah, there's 3 teams: an 8-4 team, an 10-2 or whatever Notre Dame's record was, and a 6-6 team. So it's not just a bunch of mediocre 6-6 teams. There's some teams that are 8-10 win, fringe playoff teams that are declining to go to bowl games. And then is Brett McMurphy reporting at least 7 teams that were 5-7 declined bowl invitations. Among them was Temple. And I ended up retweeting, there was a guy who follows Temple football, and it's like Temple hasn't been to a bowl game for the better part of a decade. And they had a bowl fall into their lap where they could have gone for, again, the first time since like, I think it was like 2016 or 17 or something like that. And they said no. And it's like, you have a chance to do something you've not done in a while. And yeah, sure, maybe you were the 8th option, you were the 8th runner-up, but like, you could do something like that. But because teams they just don't care about bowl season, we've had an erosion of bowl season, and we've been seeing this coming. We've been voicing these concerns in the sports world for like a decade and a half. Mm-hmm. The erosion of people caring about bowl season. And the playoffs, so don't blame the playoffs because this has been coming for a while, but the playoffs are accelerating the demise where teams just don't care about being in bowl games anymore.
Yeah, it's messed up. As we led the show, the bowl season is dead. We just don't know it yet. At least the bowls.
Oh, we know it yet.
The bowl organizers don't realize it yet.
Yeah, they don't realize it yet, and we're all just kind of in a denial of, we'll watch it. But again, fans don't care as much. The players certainly don't care, and I think that's the biggest problem is that the players don't care, and the coaches want to get on to the offseason.
Right, because if it's the college football playoff or nothing, then that doesn't leave room for very many bowls. And if teams are going to opt out of that just to start preparing for next year, it's like the scene from the movie Elf. Santa Claus arrives. It says, time to start preparations for next Christmas. And everybody starts going crazy. It's like it's December 26th, and we're going nuts about next year. That's the way it is in college football season. As soon as the season's done, let's start preparations for next year. Even though there's chances to continue the season that still exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your brothers in arms, you talk about being a team and the chemistry, and all these coaches will spend the entire season talking about how much the players love each other and hang out and love to be together. And then the last day of the season hits, suddenly they're all strangers in the same locker room.
3486 before we hit a timeout. Move the transfer window and then tie some sort of NIL bonus to playing in a bowl.
They did move the transfer portal. And there are still players. Utah State has a player who's already announced they're entering the portal. And I'm seeing more trickle in.
Yeah, I think that the moving the transfer window has helped and will help. But having a financial incentive directly to the players, that might be the way that has to evolve.
Bowl games can't afford that. They're not even breaking even as
Not
is.
most of them. Yeah. Quick timeout here on the Full Court Press. We'll be right back on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
It's back. Jarek's Fine Jewelry in Logan is having our annual Pick a Pearl event. If you've attended this in the past, you know how much fun we have. And if you haven't come before, you don't want to miss this exciting event. Still, only $10. Pick your oyster, open it that day, or save it for that stocking stuffer surprise.
Mark your calendar, Friday and Saturday, December 12th and 13th.
Pick a Pearl at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Look for the bright green cars.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Hi, it's Emily at Serenoni, and our holiday sale is happening now through December 22nd. Come shop in-store only and save up to 40% off select blankets and gifts. It's the perfect time to find gifts for everyone on your list, from babies to teens, grandparents, neighbors, and anyone who could use a little extra comfort this season. Because when you give a Serenoni blanket, you're giving more than a gift. You're giving warmth, connection, and comfort they'll reach for every single day. Shop our store on 10th West between iFit and Saitiva. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
The chips and drinks are endless. The burrito is huge for only $7.95. It's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant and gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and a massive burrito. You pay just $7.95. The food, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th West and Center in Logan.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Keep your car running at its best with the help from your friends at Napa Auto Parts. Like if you need a new battery or you need new wiper blades, they have the best brands and can even help you with installation right on the spot at the store. Multiple locations between Preston and Providence, and they're locally owned. Napa Auto Parts. Utah State getting ready for their bowl game. They got the announcement on Sunday. They're headed to Boise to take on Washington State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. It's going to be December 22nd, 12 o'clock kickoff in Boise. Some different fan reactions to that announcement, but challenges around the country for bowl games and teams opting to not participate.
Real quick, though, 8577 asking, what players have entered the portal already from USU? And the answer is E.J. Fisk, the cornerback. He's the one I've seen announce it on social media. If anybody else has, I haven't seen it yet.
I thought there was someone else who did, but
it's entirely possible.
In both cases, these were fringe players.
Yeah, there are backups who are probably have been planning to enter the portal for about a month.
Yeah, and these are likely guys who had conversations with the coaches, figure out their status, and then realized, look, if I want to play, I got to go find somewhere else.
Yeah, so nobody significant to playing in the bowl game his transfer that I'm aware of. Of course, they can't enter the portal. They just announced their intention to enter the portal.
Yeah, and you'll see that the portal window won't actually open until early January.
Yeah, because
you'll hear a bunch of players who will announce their intentions.
Yeah.
And schools or their proxies will reach out to these players to already come up with arrangements so that the second that opens, then they make it official where they're headed.
Yeah, and I suspected this would end up being the case because we already established this as portal season. So even though the physical portal is moved, or not physical, but the literal portal, you're going to have a bunch of players that announce that they're going to enter the portal. In fact, DJ Fisk worded it pretty specifically that he will enter the portal. But I think there will be a slowdown in players entering the portal in December.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
A lot more to get into next hour. We'll talk about Utah State basketball, Utah State men and women.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. College football has always been a copycat sport, but if anybody believes Indiana's rise can simply be duplicated, they may be in for a long and frustrating ride. What Curt Cignetti built is not a formula that you download and run. It's an anomaly. You start with the coach, you find somebody as confident, sharp, and aggressively forward-thinking as Cignetti. It's almost impossible. Then add the transfer portal. Indiana did not just hit the portal, they dominated it. And as if that was not challenging enough, they landed a Heisman-level quarterback and developed him into a potential first overall pick. This is Indiana football we're talking about, a program that had never produced a double-digit winning season in its entire history. Cignetti went 11-2, then followed it with a perfect 13-0 run. Cinderella's story should give teams hope, but in a copycat sport, programs trying to recreate this are going to learn just how rare what they're doing in Bloomington really is. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.